The heavy hum of the government facility was the only sound that could be heard in the vast, sterile halls of the underground complex. In the middle of the night, the workers continued their tasks, oblivious to what was about to unfold. Their lives, their jobs, and their very existence were about to be erased, by design. Inside the restricted section of the building, a group of scientists sat huddled around a series of monitors, each screen flickering with streams of data they could barely comprehend. For years, they had been tasked with a project so secretive, so delicate, that only a handful of people outside their team knew it existed. But tonight, everything changed. Dr. Emily Carter, the lead scientist of the project, glanced at the clock on her desk. It was 2:37 a.m. Her eyes were tired, red from hours of staring at numbers and graphs that didn't make sense. She rubbed her temples and muttered to herself, "Something's not right." It was a gut feeling, one that had been bothering her for days. The data they were receiving didn't match any known patterns, and the anomalies were growing too frequent to ignore. But what made her uneasy wasn't just the data. It was what had been happening to her team over the past few weeks. They'd all started noticing strange things. People began forgetting important details. Others had flashes of vivid dreams, dreams that felt too real. Some reported hearing voices during the dead of night, calling their names. And then there was the unexplained feeling of being watched. Dr. Carter was about to dismiss it all as paranoia when the first signal appeared on the screen, an irregularity unlike anything they'd seen before. A massive spike in energy, far beyond the facility's known capacity, blipped across the monitor. It was brief, only a fraction of a second, but it was enough. She called out to her colleague, Dr. Lucas Shaw, who had been reviewing a different set of data. "Lucas, take a look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. He moved over to her side, squinting at the display. "That's impossible," he muttered, running a few calculations on his tablet. His fingers froze mid-air as his eyes locked onto the data. "Emily, this doesn't make any sense," Lucas stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "This energy signature, it's not from here. It's not from Earth." Before Dr. Carter could respond, the lights in the room flickered once, twice, then shut off completely, plunging them into darkness. For a moment, the only sound was the distant hum of the facility's emergency power systems kicking in. "What the hell is going on?" Dr. Carter asked, trying to keep her voice steady. She reached for her flashlight, but it was gone. Panic crept into her chest. Another flicker, then the emergency lights flickered on. The dim red glow filled the room, casting long shadows across the walls. But the screens were all blank. "Dr. Carter," came a voice from the hallway, shaking her from her thoughts. It was her assistant, Sarah, sounding breathless and afraid. "You need to see this. Now." Dr. Carter hurried to the door, but as she reached for the handle, it flew open with a sudden force. Sarah stood there, her face pale, eyes wide with terror. "What is it?" Dr. Carter demanded. "They're gone," Sarah whispered. "Everyone in Sector C, they just vanished." The words didn't register at first. Dr. Carter blinked, confused, before following Sarah down the hall to the restricted sector where the team was working. It only took them a few minutes to reach the security checkpoint that led to the high-security vault where the most sensitive research was stored. The door was wide open, and the lights inside were flickering erratically. "Where is everyone?" Dr. Carter asked. Sarah swallowed hard, eyes scanning the empty room. There was no one inside. No sign of struggle. It was as if they just disappeared. Panic shot through Dr. Carter's veins. "What about the cameras?" she asked, looking at the security monitors in the corner of the room. The screens were static, the images broken and unreadable. Suddenly, one screen blinked to life. A single image appeared, one of the scientists, Dr. William Forsyth, the head of data analysis. His face was frozen in an expression of shock, his hand still holding a piece of equipment. But there was something wrong. His image flickered in and out, distorting as though someone was interfering with the feed. And then, just like that, the image was gone. Who erased it? Sarah gasped, her voice shaking. Dr. Carter was at a loss for words. The footage had been wiped. But there was no sign of anyone tampering with the equipment. It was as if someone, had actively erased it. Her mind raced. This wasn't just a power outage or a freak accident. Something far more sinister was happening, something they couldn't even begin to understand. Before she could say another word, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, her hands trembling as she saw the message. From unknown number. They know. You have the file. Get out. Dr. Carter's heart skipped a beat. Who was this? And how did they know about the file? The file, the one they'd been working on for months, was hidden in a secure vault deep within the facility. The contents of the file were supposed to be classified beyond the highest level of clearance. It held the key to everything, the truth about the mysterious energy spikes they'd been tracking, and about the anomalies that had been plaguing the team for weeks. A noise from down the hall interrupted her thoughts. She turned sharply, her eyes narrowing as she saw a figure move in the shadows. The figure stepped forward, revealing itself to be one of the missing scientists, Dr. Forsyth. But it wasn't the Dr. Forsyth she remembered. His face was pale, almost gray, and his eyes, those once sharp, calculating eyes, were clouded and distant. William? Dr. Carter whispered. Her voice laced with disbelief. What happened to you? Dr. Forsyth didn't respond. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, metallic device. The same kind of device they'd used to analyze the alien signals. He handed it to Dr. Carter without a word. Take it, he said, his voice hollow. It's all in there. The truth. They know everything. They're watching. Before she could ask another question, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkened halls. Dr. Carter stood frozen, the device heavy in her hand. There was a note attached, written in hurried, shaky handwriting, the lost files. Trust no one. Her heart raced as she clutched the device tighter. The room was spinning. Was this all part of some grand experiment? Had they been part of something far more dangerous than they realized? In the distance, there was a low rumble, followed by a series of loud crashes. The building shook as if something massive had just impacted it. Get to the surface, Sarah said urgently, grabbing Dr. Carter's arm. We need to leave now. Dr. Carter nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. The truth was just out of reach. And now, it seemed, they were not just battling an alien force, they were also fighting the truth itself. As they made their way to the exit, Dr. Carter couldn't shake the feeling that they had just scratched the surface of something much bigger than themselves. And it was only the beginning. The walls of the underground facility were cold, sterile, and oppressive. As Dr. Emily Carter and her assistant, Sarah, ran through the halls, the weight of the situation bore down on them like a crushing tide. Their breaths were shallow, their minds racing with questions they had no answers for. What had happened to Dr. Forsyth? How did he know about the lost files? And more importantly, who was watching them? The rumbling noise had died down, but the building continued to shake sporadically, as though something beneath the Earth's surface was shifting. Every corner they turned seemed darker than the last, the emergency lights casting eerie shadows along the walls. We need to get out, Sarah said, her voice barely audible as they rounded another corner, moving quickly but cautiously. I know, Dr. Carter replied, her mind already spinning with the implications of what they had just witnessed. But there's something we need to do first. I have to check something. Sarah looked at her with wide eyes. Now? We're running out of time. We can't leave without the file, Dr. Carter insisted, her jaw clenched. We need to find out what's really going on here. They reached a security door at the far end of the hallway, the last checkpoint before they could access the upper levels. The door was locked, but Dr. Carter wasn't concerned. She quickly punched in a sequence of numbers on the keypad, one she had memorized years ago. The door clicked open with a soft hiss. Inside the room was a small control station. Multiple monitors were lined up against the walls, showing various areas of the facility. But it wasn't the cameras or the monitors that Dr. Carter was interested in. She headed straight for the main terminal, the one that held access to the secure database. She sat down, ignoring Sarah's concerned look, and typed in her login credentials. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, faster than she had ever typed before. Every second counted. She needed to find out everything she could before they were caught. The screen flashed a few times before the terminal opened, revealing a mass of data, encrypted and hidden behind layers of security. Dr. Carter frowned. It was exactly what she had feared. Someone had already tried to wipe the records. She navigated through the system with practiced ease, pulling up data logs from the past few weeks. Her eyes scanned the reports, noting the strange energy readings, the fluctuating anomalies in the signal patterns they had been studying, and, most troubling of all, the sudden disappearance of several key personnel. "Emily, we don't have much time," Sarah urged, her voice tense. "We have to leave now." "I'm almost there," Dr. Carter replied, her voice cold with determination. She continued to scroll through the data, her heart racing with each new revelation. And then, there it was. A single file, marked with an unrecognized code. The lost files. Dr. Carter clicked it open. As the file decrypted, her screen filled with an overwhelming amount of information. The sheer volume of data was staggering. Alien species, extraterrestrial encounters, top-secret government projects, they were all there, right in front of her. She was about to uncover something that no one had ever seen before. But before she could begin to process the contents, a sudden, blaring alarm rang out, cutting through the silence like a knife. The entire building shook again, this time with a violent force, sending Dr. Carter stumbling from her chair. The lights flickered wildly, casting grotesque shadows across the room. "What's happening?" Sarah screamed, her hands clutching the sides of the desk for support. Dr. Carter stood up, her face pale as the realization hit her. The file wasn't just a government project, it was a warning. A warning that someone, or something, had been trying to erase. And they weren't going to let her get away with it. "I think we've triggered something," Dr. Carter said, her voice trembling as she backed toward the door. "We need to go. Now." But before they could reach the exit, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang, locking them inside. "Emily!" Sarah cried out, her panic rising. "What the hell is going on?" Dr. Carter tried to open the door, but it was futile. The control panel was completely unresponsive. She slammed her fists against it, feeling the weight of the situation bearing down on her. From the darkness outside, a voice emerged, cold, robotic, and menacing. "You should not have come here." The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, echoing off the walls of the small room. "Who are you?" Dr. Carter demanded, her voice filled with both defiance and fear. The response was chilling. "We are the ones who watch. The ones who govern. You are now part of the experiment." Dr. Carter's heart skipped a beat as the lights in the room went out completely, plunging them into total darkness. "Emily, what's going on?" Sarah's voice was shaky, filled with terror. "I don't know," Dr. Carter whispered, her mind racing. The voice. The way it had spoken. It was almost as if it was artificial. But how? And who was behind it? Suddenly, the room lit up again, this time with an eerie, pale blue light. It wasn't the emergency lighting. This was something else. The walls of the room began to shift, the metal panels folding back with mechanical precision. Dr. Carter gasped in horror as the entire structure of the facility seemed to transform before her eyes. What had once been a simple control room now appeared to be part of something much, much larger, something alien. "Is this part of the facility?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No," Dr. Carter replied, shaking her head in disbelief. "This is something else. Something not from Earth." And then it happened. From the walls, strange symbols began to glow, symbols that no human had ever seen before. The air grew thick with a heavy, oppressive energy, and Dr. Carter felt a sharp pain shoot through her head, as though something was probing her mind. She stumbled backward, gripping the table for support. "We need to get out of here. Now." But just as she turned toward the door, it opened. A figure stood in the threshold, a tall, imposing being cloaked in shadow. Its face was obscured by a helmet-like mask, but there was something unnervingly familiar about the shape of its body. "Who are you?" Dr. Carter demanded, her voice shaking, yet filled with defiance. The figure did not respond. It simply stepped forward, its movements calculated and deliberate. As it moved closer, Dr. Carter could feel an overwhelming sense of power emanating from it. She instinctively took a step back, her mind racing. And then, the figure spoke. "We are the ones who made you. We are the ones who erased your history. We are the ones who control your world." Dr. Carter's breath caught in her throat. It was the truth she had been searching for, the truth that had been hidden from her and her team for so long. The experiments. The data. The strange signals. Everything led back to this moment. "Why?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. The figure didn't answer at first. Instead, it raised one gloved hand and pointed toward the glowing symbols on the walls. "Because your kind was never meant to know. You were always meant to be forgotten." Suddenly, the room began to shake again. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the walls seemed to be closing in. The figure stepped aside, allowing Dr. Carter and Sarah a glimpse of what lay beyond. The hallway ahead was bathed in the same eerie blue light. And at the far end, something enormous, loomed in the distance. A ship. A vessel that seemed to pulse with an alien energy. "Get to the ship," the figure ordered. "You have no choice." With no other option, Dr. Carter grabbed Sarah's arm and pulled her toward the door. They had no idea what awaited them on the other side, but they knew one thing for certain: they had just uncovered a secret far darker and more dangerous than they had ever imagined. As they stepped into the alien corridor, the door behind them slammed shut, locking them in. And for the first time, Dr. Carter realized the true scale of what they were up against. They weren't just battling unknown forces. They were fighting for their very survival. Dr. Emily Carter felt as though her mind was about to fracture. Every new twist, every revelation, only made her realize how little she truly knew. The walls of the underground facility had collapsed into silence, leaving behind only the faint hum of machinery in the distance. The heavy, ominous air around them was thick with something that felt like impending doom. They were no longer just dealing with an experiment gone wrong or an isolated incident. No, they were tangled in something far more sinister, far more ancient. "Emily. What are we walking into?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible in the eerie quiet. "I don't know," Dr. Carter replied, her throat tight. She felt like she was choking on her own fear, but she couldn't show it. She had to stay calm. She had to keep moving. For both their sakes. The corridor they were walking through seemed endless. Its gleaming, smooth metal walls were covered in symbols, strange markings that moved and shifted like living things. They had no idea how long they had been walking. It felt like hours, but it couldn't have been. The air around them grew colder with each step, the temperature dropping in such a way that Dr. Carter could feel the cold settling deep into her bones. It wasn't just the environment, it was as if the place itself was alive, conscious of their presence. They had left the control room behind, and now they were walking toward the unknown. They had no idea where they were headed or what awaited them. All they knew was that the facility was far more than just a research center. This was something else, something much bigger, something far beyond their comprehension. Sarah shivered beside her, pulling her jacket tighter around her. "We shouldn't be here," she said, her voice shaking. "We should have never come." Dr. Carter didn't answer. There was nothing to say. The truth was, she didn't know if they could make it out. She didn't even know what the odds were. All she knew was that they had to try. The figure, the one that had spoken to them in the control room, had told them to go to the ship. But they didn't know where the ship was. The only thing they had were these alien corridors, these endless halls that seemed to stretch for miles. A door suddenly slid open ahead of them. The air seemed to pulse with a low hum as a room beyond the door revealed itself, bathed in the same eerie blue glow. This wasn't like the other areas they had encountered. This room was vast, its size hard to comprehend. The walls seemed to stretch infinitely upward, disappearing into shadows. The door closed behind them with a sharp hiss, and Dr. Carter immediately stepped forward, her instincts taking over. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end, and she instinctively reached out to grab Sarah's hand. "Stay close," she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. "I don't like this." In front of them, a console lit up, its holographic interface glowing softly. A deep, resonant voice spoke from hidden speakers, the same cold tone as before. "You have come. Now you will learn." Dr. Carter froze. The voice was different this time. There was something almost sinister in it. It was as if it knew her every thought, every fear. It wasn't just a voice, it felt like an invasion, like something was speaking directly to her mind. "Who are you?" Dr. Carter demanded, her voice more forceful than she felt. "What do you want with us?" The voice didn't respond immediately. Instead, the holographic interface in front of them flickered and came to life, revealing an image of Earth. But it wasn't the Earth she knew. It was a different version, a twisted, fractured version, its surface marred by scars, craters, and dark, swirling clouds. The image zoomed in, and Dr. Carter could see cities in ruins, forests decimated, and oceans that looked polluted, as though the very life of the planet was slowly being drained away. "This is the result of your kind's interference," the voice continued. "Your species has been a virus, a contaminant." Dr. Carter's heart pounded in her chest. "No. We didn't cause this. We didn't." "You have destroyed your world," the voice interrupted, cold and unrelenting. "You have brought this fate upon yourselves. And now, you will witness the consequences." The hologram shifted, and the image of Earth vanished, replaced by another, this one unfamiliar, alien. The planet was teeming with life, lush, vibrant, and beautiful. Dr. Carter could see sprawling cities and glowing structures that seemed to shimmer with energy. "This is what Earth could have been," the voice continued. "But your interference, your greed, your hunger for power, it tainted everything. You have taken the path of destruction." Dr. Carter stared at the image, her mind racing. You're saying we're responsible for this? For what happened to our world?" The voice fell silent for a long moment, and then it spoke again, softer this time. "No. You are not the cause. But you have been the catalyst. And now, the experiment begins." The hologram flickered again, this time showing a series of images. There were humans, young and old, families, workers, soldiers, all seemingly going about their lives. But as the images changed, so did their expressions. One by one, they grew anxious, fearful, and then, vacant. Empty. "These are the chosen," the voice said, its tone now almost contemplative. "These humans have been selected. They will witness what your species was always meant to become, part of the grand design. Dr. Carter took a step back, her mind spinning. What is the grand design? What are you doing to them? But the voice did not answer. Instead, the room began to shake once more. The walls groaned under the pressure, and a loud whirring sound filled the air. Then, the floor beneath them shifted. The ground cracked, revealing a massive, glowing structure beneath them, pulsating with an eerie light. The walls slid open, revealing a vast chamber, and in the center of it all stood the ship. Dr. Carter gasped as she took in the sight. The ship was enormous, beyond anything she could have imagined. It wasn't just a craft, it was alive. Its surface was smooth and iridescent, almost organic, and as it hummed with energy, Dr. Carter could feel it reverberating deep in her chest. The figure that had appeared earlier stepped forward again, its tall, imposing frame blocking their path. "This is where it ends," the figure said, its voice colder than before. "You were never meant to understand. But now you will." Dr. Carter felt a chill run down her spine as the figure approached. She wanted to move, to run, but her legs felt like lead. "What do you want from us?" she asked again, the fear in her voice unmistakable. "You will witness the final phase of the experiment," the figure replied. "And you will be part of it." The doors to the ship opened, and Dr. Carter knew, without a doubt, that there was no turning back. She looked at Sarah, whose eyes were wide with fear, and for a moment, Dr. Carter could see the same uncertainty that she herself felt reflected back at her. "Come on," Dr. Carter said, forcing herself to take a step forward, her voice steadier than it had been moments ago. "We have no choice now." The moment they crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind them. The ship's interior was cold, metallic, and disorienting. The walls seemed to shift and pulse with energy, and the faint hum from earlier grew louder. Inside, they were met with an array of strange, alien devices, machines and technology that looked beyond human comprehension. It was as if they had stepped into a different realm, a place where the laws of nature were rewritten. A soft voice echoed from the ship's systems, this time speaking directly to them. "You have entered the heart of the experiment. The final phase begins now." Dr. Carter's mind raced. She had no idea what the experiment was. But whatever it was, it had to do with humanity's future. And they were at the center of it. In that moment, she realized the truth. The ship, the experiments, the alien presence, they were all part of something far larger than any of them could have ever imagined. And they were about to become a crucial piece of that puzzle. Dr. Emily Carter couldn't believe her eyes. The walls of the alien ship seemed to close in around them, shifting and changing with every passing second. Every step forward seemed to take them deeper into the unknown. Her heart raced as she tried to make sense of the events unfolding. Sarah was beside her, equally overwhelmed, but she could see the terror in her eyes. I can't do this anymore," Sarah whispered, clutching Dr. Carter's arm. "This is too much. We're in way over our heads." "We have no choice," Dr. Carter replied, her voice tense. "We have to find out what they want with us, and how to stop this, whatever this is." The air inside the ship was thick with an unnatural energy, and the walls pulsed like they were alive. The hum that had been present since they entered had grown louder, vibrating in the pit of her stomach. It was almost as though the ship itself was aware of their presence, conscious of their every move. They continued down the narrow corridor, every step feeling heavier than the last. The strange markings on the walls glowed faintly, casting an eerie light on their path. It was as though they were walking through a living organism, its heartbeat syncing with their own. Dr. Carter couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, observed from all angles, but by what, she couldn't say. Suddenly, the corridor opened into a vast chamber. The size of the room was hard to comprehend, stretching beyond the reach of her eyes. The ceiling seemed to stretch into infinity, filled with shifting shadows. At the center of the room stood a large, transparent structure, pulsing with blue light. It looked like some kind of containment chamber or a bizarre alien device. The walls around it seemed to warp and bend in a way that defied logic. At the base of the structure, a holographic interface flickered to life. The image that appeared before them was nothing short of a nightmare. The hologram displayed the Earth, but not as they knew it. The planet was shown from space, its surface scarred with massive craters. Large portions of the surface were consumed by what looked like an enormous, swirling black mass. A dark cloud, like a growing infection, was spreading across the globe, infecting everything in its path. Is that? Sarah's voice trailed off in horror. Is that Earth? Dr. Carter's mouth went dry as she nodded, barely able to comprehend what she was seeing. The planet, the place they called home, was on the brink of destruction. But this destruction didn't look like something natural. It was something deliberate. Something planned. They're doing this, Dr. Carter muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. They're responsible for this. The hologram shifted, zooming in on different regions of the Earth. The cities that had once been bustling with life were now in ruins. Nature was all but gone, replaced by the blackened remnants of what had once been forests, oceans, and mountains. This is the outcome of your species' interference, the same cold, mechanical voice echoed through the room. You were given a chance. But you have failed. The voice sent a chill down Dr. Carter's spine. She didn't know if the voice was alien, human, or something in between. But it was clear that it was not here to help. It was here to pass judgment. And that judgment had already been made. A strange, mechanical sound filled the air as the structure in front of them began to shift. A panel slid open, revealing a glowing orb at its center. The orb pulsated with an eerie light, radiating a sense of power that seemed to hum through the very air around them. That is the source, the voice continued, the core of the experiment. The power that sustains it. Experiment? Dr. Carter repeated, her voice trembling. What experiment? What are you doing to Earth? To us? The hologram shifted again, and this time, it showed a different scene, one that made Dr. Carter's blood run cold. There were people, countless people, standing in rows, their eyes vacant, lifeless. They looked like they were being controlled. As though they were puppets, their strings being pulled by some unseen force. They were chosen, the voice explained. The ones who will bear witness to the end of your species. The ones who will be part of the final phase. Dr. Carter's head spun. Chosen? For what? What was this experiment? And why were people being forced into it? Before she could formulate another question, the ship seemed to respond to her unspoken thoughts. A new image appeared in front of her, this time showing the inside of a laboratory, no, a chamber, where people were undergoing some kind of transformation. They were connected to machines, their bodies suspended in a state of suspended animation. The technology surrounding them was foreign, even to her trained eyes. But it was clear that this wasn't science as she knew it. This was something far more advanced, something terrifying. Those who are chosen are part of the evolution, the voice said, its tone dripping with an unnatural calm. They will become the next phase of life. The next step in the grand design. Evolution? Dr. Carter repeated, confusion and horror mixing in her chest. What are you talking about? Evolution to what? The image shifted again, this time showing creatures that were no longer human. They were something else entirely, tall, imposing, their bodies covered in strange armor-like skin. Their eyes were empty, hollow, and their movements were robotic, as if they were controlled by a force outside of themselves. They were alien. But at the same time, they looked too human to be just another species. The voice spoke once more, its tone final and unyielding. These are the next step. The new form that humanity will take. And you will become part of this new order. Dr. Carter felt her knees go weak. She wanted to scream, to run, to somehow wake herself from this nightmare. But there was no escape. They were trapped. And the fate of humanity was no longer in their hands. "They've been transforming people," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "Into these things. Whatever they are." Dr. Carter nodded slowly, her mind racing. The pieces were beginning to fall into place. The experiments, the mysterious alien technology, the strange figures they had encountered, all of it was leading to one horrifying conclusion. "They're turning humans into something else," Dr. Carter said, her voice barely audible. "They're trying to replace us. To make us into something we're not." "And we're next," Sarah whispered. "Aren't we?" Before Dr. Carter could respond, the room seemed to shift once again. The glowing orb at the center of the chamber pulsed, and a beam of light shot from it, enveloping the two women. Dr. Carter tried to step back, but the light was overwhelming. It wasn't just light, it was energy, pure and unrelenting. It seemed to seep into her skin, filling every pore, every nerve with a strange, electric sensation. "Your transformation begins now," the voice said, its tone triumphant. The world around Dr. Carter seemed to collapse into nothingness. The light was blinding, and the pressure in the room intensified. She felt herself being pulled into the orb's energy, her body shaking, her thoughts scattering. She could hear Sarah screaming beside her, but the sound was muffled, distant. Then, everything stopped. Dr. Carter blinked, disoriented. She could feel the presence of the orb still, its energy lingering in the air, but the light had dimmed. Slowly, she realized that she was no longer in the chamber. She was somewhere else, somewhere that felt wrong. The room she was in was smaller now, and the walls were covered in unfamiliar symbols. The floor beneath her was solid, cold stone, and the air smelled strange, like burnt metal and something sweet. She turned to find Sarah, but she wasn't there. Panic surged in her chest. "Sarah?" she called, her voice shaky. "Sarah?" There was no answer. A figure appeared in front of her, stepping from the shadows. It was tall, imposing, with dark, featureless eyes that seemed to look right through her. "You're awake," the figure said, its voice like a whisper in the dark. "But you're not what you once were." Dr. Carter felt a wave of nausea hit her. The transformation had begun. The room was silent, save for the sound of Dr. Emily Carter's quickening breath. She felt the overwhelming weight of the alien energy in the air, like a storm gathering just out of sight, waiting to strike. Her body felt foreign to her, a stranger trapped in a familiar shell. Her mind raced, trying to comprehend what had just happened, what was happening, and what would come next. She glanced down at her hands, expecting to see the same familiar flesh she had known all her life. But the skin was no longer the same. There was a strange pattern to it now, faint lines and symbols that pulsed with an eerie, otherworldly glow. The transformation had begun. She could feel it in her bones, her very cells changing. The energy from the orb had washed over her like a tide. She had felt it course through her veins, filling her with an unearthly power, but also leaving behind a deep sense of dread. The light had seemed to tear apart her reality, and now, she was no longer sure who she was or what she was becoming. She had no idea if the woman she had been even existed anymore. Was she still human? Or was she something else entirely? "Sarah?" Dr. Carter's voice cracked as she called out again, panic twisting in her chest. "Where are you?" The silence answered her with nothing but the distant hum of the alien ship. She took a step forward, her legs feeling oddly heavy, but still functioning. The energy that had enveloped her seemed to make every movement more deliberate, more controlled, as if her body was no longer just her own. She could feel the ship's presence all around her, its walls closing in as she navigated through the maze of metallic corridors. She had to find Sarah. She had to understand what was happening. They had no time to waste. Dr. Carter pushed open the door to another chamber, its heavy metal frame groaning in protest as it swung open. The room inside was dimly lit, filled with the same pulsating lights and alien symbols she had seen earlier. But it was not empty. A figure stood at the far end, shrouded in shadow. The unmistakable shape of a humanoid silhouette. For a moment, Dr. Carter's heart leaped into her throat. Was it Sarah? Had she somehow found her? She hurried forward, but as she approached, the figure turned to face her, and she froze in place. It was not Sarah. It was a creature, tall, imposing, with skin the color of polished obsidian. Its features were alien, angular, and sharp, its eyes glowing an unnatural shade of green. It looked like nothing human. Yet, there was something in its gaze, something familiar, almost human-like. A sense of awareness, of emotion. The creature spoke in a voice that was both cold and distant, yet somehow full of understanding. "Dr. Carter," it said, its tone low and smooth, like the whisper of 1,000 winds. "I knew you would come." Dr. Carter's stomach twisted in knots. She didn't recognize the creature, but she knew it was somehow connected to everything that had happened. It was connected to the alien ship, to the transformation, to the fate of humanity. What are you?" Dr. Carter demanded, her voice hoarse. She clenched her fists, trying to steady herself, but her hands still trembled. "Where is Sarah? What have you done to her?" The creature regarded her for a long moment, its eyes glowing softly. "Sarah is not the one you should be concerned about," it said. "You have far greater concerns, Dr. Carter." A cold shiver ran down her spine. "What do you mean?" The creature tilted its head slightly, its eyes never leaving hers. "You are part of a grand experiment, a process far beyond your understanding. The transformation you have already begun to undergo is just the beginning. The power within you now is only a fraction of what is to come." Dr. Carter's mind raced. "Experiment? Transformation? What are you talking about?" The creature took a step toward her, its movements slow and deliberate. "We are the architects of the next phase of evolution. Your species, humanity, has been chosen to undergo the process. To evolve into something greater. You have already been exposed to the initial stages of this transformation. You're going to turn us into..." Dr. Carter's voice faltered, the words too terrible to speak. The creature nodded. "Into something more. Something better. You, Dr. Carter, are the key. Your body and mind are evolving to accept the new form that humanity will take. The next step in evolution will begin with you. The rest of humanity will follow." Dr. Carter shook her head, disbelief and fear flooding her. "No. This is madness. You can't just..." "You have no choice," the creature interrupted, its voice unwavering. "The process is irreversible. The moment you were chosen, your fate was sealed. Your transformation will be completed, and you will join the others. As for your friend Sarah, she will serve her purpose in time." Dr. Carter's heart raced as she processed the creature's words. This was no longer just a matter of survival. This was an extinction event for humanity. They were being molded into something else. Something alien. Something the creature and its kind would control. She fought the growing panic that threatened to consume her. "No. I won't become part of your experiment. I'll fight this." The creature stepped closer, its face now inches from hers. "You can fight it, Dr. Carter. But the more you resist, the more painful it will be. You will undergo the transformation, whether you accept it or not." It reached out and placed a hand on her arm, its touch sending a shock of energy through her body. The pain was immediate, sharp, unlike anything she had ever felt before. It was as if her body was being torn apart from the inside, reshaped into something unrecognizable. She screamed, collapsing to the floor as waves of energy coursed through her, but even as the agony tore at her, part of her felt it, felt the power, the raw strength building inside her. The creature didn't move. It simply watched, its cold gaze unwavering, as Dr. Carter writhed on the floor. It spoke once more, its voice an echo of something ancient and terrifying. "You are becoming what you were always meant to be, Dr. Carter. A part of the future. The future of humanity." Her body shook violently, and just when she thought she couldn't take it anymore, the pain stopped. Her vision blurred, and she struggled to focus, gasping for air. When her eyes cleared, she realized the transformation had already begun. She could feel it in her blood, in her skin. She stood shakily, looking down at herself. The faint patterns on her skin had grown brighter, the alien symbols now etched into her body like a brand. Her strength had increased, her senses heightened. Her mind felt sharper, clearer, yet colder. Detached. As if the humanity she had fought to preserve was slipping away, piece by piece. Dr. Carter couldn't bring herself to speak. The fear of what she was becoming was too much to bear. And yet, there was an undeniable truth lingering within her: the transformation was far from over. It had only just begun. The creature turned, its back now facing her. "The next stage will be soon. You will not be alone. The others will join you, and together, you will bring about the dawn of a new era. One that you will help shape." "No!" Dr. Carter screamed, the word ripping itself from her throat. "I won't let you do this." But the creature did not answer. Instead, it vanished into the shadows, leaving Dr. Carter alone in the darkened room. The hum of the ship filled the silence, a reminder of the terrible truth she had just learned. Her mind raced. Sarah. She had to find Sarah. She had to stop this before it was too late. But she knew deep down that it was already too late. The transformation was in motion. There was no turning back now. Dr. Emily Carter's heart pounded in her chest. Every step she took echoed through the ship's hollow corridors. Her breath was shallow, and the cold grip of fear clung to her like a second skin. The alien symbols etched into her skin pulsed softly, a constant reminder of the transformation that was now irreversible. The power that coursed through her body felt like a double-edged sword, both a gift and a curse. The more she tried to resist, the stronger it became. She had to find Sarah. There was no other choice. The horrifying truth the creature had revealed still hung over her like a cloud. Humanity was on the brink of extinction, not in the way she had ever imagined, but in a far more insidious and horrifying form. They weren't just being eradicated, they were being reshaped. Controlled. Subjugated. The transformation wasn't just a biological change. It was a mental one. The more she felt the power growing within her, the more she could feel her humanity slipping away. A cold, distant part of her, something alien, was beginning to surface. It was as if she was being molded by forces beyond her comprehension, forces she could never have predicted or prepared for. But Sarah. Her friend, her partner in all of this. Dr. Carter couldn't let go of the thought. She refused to. As she moved through the winding halls of the alien ship, she finally came to a door that she didn't recognize. Unlike the other cold, sterile rooms she had encountered, this one seemed different. It was warmer, almost inviting, with soft golden light spilling from beneath the edges of the door. Without thinking, Dr. Carter reached for the handle and turned it. The door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a room unlike any she had seen before. The room was vast, much larger than anything the ship's design suggested. It was almost familiar. In the center, a large tank stood, illuminated by an otherworldly glow. Inside the tank, suspended in a translucent liquid, was Sarah. Her body was motionless, her face peaceful, but her eyes were closed as if in sleep. Dr. Carter's heart leaped in her chest as she stepped forward, her hand reaching out instinctively. But before she could touch the tank, a voice interrupted her. "You're too late." The voice was low, cold, and unmistakable. The creature, she had known it would follow her, but she hadn't expected it to be so close. She turned, her eyes narrowing as she faced the alien being that had started all of this. The creature stepped into the room, its tall frame casting a long shadow against the walls. Its eyes glowed with that same unsettling green light, and it regarded Dr. Carter with a look that was both calculating and indifferent. "You don't understand," it said. "The transformation has already begun. It's already too late for your species." Dr. Carter took a step back, her hands trembling at her sides. She felt the alien energy surging through her, demanding that she give in, accept her fate. But she couldn't. Not like this. Not when Sarah was still here, unconscious and unaware of what was happening. "You don't have to do this," she said, her voice shaking with both anger and desperation. "We can stop it. We can." "You can't stop what you don't understand," the creature interrupted, its voice now tinged with something colder. "You have been chosen. The process is not negotiable. It is inevitable." Dr. Carter's mind raced. She had to do something. But what? Everything she had learned so far, all the knowledge she had gathered about the alien technology and the transformation process, now seemed like useless trivia. Nothing she knew could stop what was coming. She was no longer sure if she even had the power to stop herself from changing further. The creature took another step toward her, its gaze unwavering. "You think you can save your friend. But she is already too far gone. The liquid in the tank is doing more than just preserving her. It's part of the process. Her transformation has already started." The cold, crushing weight of the creature's words landed on Dr. Carter like a sledgehammer. She had been hoping, praying, that there was still a chance. That maybe, just maybe, she could pull Sarah out of this. But if the creature was telling the truth, it was too late. Sarah was already changing. "No," Dr. Carter whispered, shaking her head. "No, you're lying." The creature tilted its head, its expression unreadable. "I don't lie, Dr. Carter. I simply state facts. And the fact is, the transformation is the only way forward. It's the only way to evolve." "To evolve?" Dr. Carter's voice was rising now, frustration and fear battling within her. "You're turning us into something we're not. You're erasing everything we are. Everything that makes us human." The creature's eyes flashed with something that could almost be considered amusement. "Humanity is a failed experiment, Dr. Carter. You can't see it now, but you will. In time, you will understand. The transformation will make you more than you've ever been." Dr. Carter's mind whirled. The creature's words made her sick. But she couldn't let this go on. She couldn't let it take Sarah. And she couldn't let it take her either. "I won't let you do this," she said, her voice steadying as she drew upon every ounce of willpower she had left. "You're wrong. I'll stop this. I'll find a way." The creature stepped closer, now within arm's reach. "You are only delaying the inevitable, Dr. Carter. You cannot stop what has already been set into motion. You are already too far gone to turn back. Just accept it." With a sudden burst of strength, Dr. Carter lunged forward, slamming her hand against the control panel near the tank. She could feel the alien energy coursing through her veins, and she harnessed it, using it as a weapon. The panel sparked and sizzled as her fingers brushed against it, but she didn't stop. With a final push, the tank system went offline, and the liquid inside the tank began to drain away. The creature roared in fury. "What have you done?" it bellowed, its form flickering with anger. But Dr. Carter wasn't listening anymore. She stepped back from the tank, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Sarah's body began to shift as the liquid drained away, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Sarah's eyes fluttered open. "Emily." Sarah whispered, her voice weak, hoarse. "What's happening? What did I miss?" Dr. Carter rushed to her side, tears of relief streaming down her face. "You're okay," she said, her voice breaking. "We're getting out of here. Together." But the creature was not finished. It stepped forward, its form now dark and menacing. "You have made a grave mistake, Dr. Carter. You think you can defy us, but you cannot. We will destroy you both, and your species will be reshaped whether you like it or not." Dr. Carter turned to face it, her fists clenched at her sides. She could feel the power coursing through her again, stronger now. This wasn't just about saving herself or Sarah. This was about saving humanity. The transformation was their fate, but they could fight it. They could fight for their freedom. "This ends now," Dr. Carter said, her voice steady and resolute. "You want to reshape us? We're human. And we'll fight you until the end." With that, she focused all of her newfound power on the creature, summoning a wave of energy that sent the alien being crashing into the far wall. It screamed in pain, but Dr. Carter didn't hesitate. She turned to Sarah, helping her to her feet as the alien ship groaned and trembled around them. The battle was far from over. The war for humanity's survival had just begun.